Hey, this is Daniel from Wodobi Plays, and today we're going to do a teardown of the newly released Retroid Pocket Mini version 2. All of the tools I use are listed in the description box below with Amazon affiliate links. The tools we will need are a Phillips 00 screwdriver, tweezers, a spudger, and a guitar pick. Finally, I recommend using a magnetic mat to keep your screws organized. Whenever I'm doing a teardown, I always like to put screws on the mat in the same pattern as they are on the device, since some screws can be different sizes and lengths. That way, when I'm putting things back together, I don't have any extras or accidentally use the wrong screw. Now let's get started. Power off the device and remove the microSD card. Then remove the 2 screws on the top and 2 screws on the bottom. Once those are out, open the SD cover and use your guitar pick to start working your way around the shell and gently pop off the clips. Once the bottom and side clips have been released, you can then simply remove the shell. There are no cables or anything connected to the device we need to worry about. Once I have the device open, I like to disconnect the battery as soon as I can so I don't have any risk of shorting out components. Peel off the black tape covering the cooling fan and set it aside. I ripped mine a bit when reassembling at one time, so just be careful. It's used to keep dust out of other areas of the motherboard, so you'll want to keep it intact. Once the tape is off, remove the 2 screws on the fan. Then you can disconnect the cable and remove the fan. Next, remove the 3 screws securing the vibration motor housing. Unplug the cable and then remove. To remove the heatsink, we'll need to remove the little white sticker covering one of the screws. Once you take out the 4 screws, the heatsink will come off with a little bit of force since it's slightly sticky to the thermal pads underneath. We can then disconnect the ribbon cable for the battery. Now if you want, you can open the plastic flaps here and pull out the battery. Don't use the flaps to try and pull the battery out. For some reason these are perforated and I accidentally ripped off the left side when I did it. The battery will definitely take a lot of force to remove to the point where you'll almost feel like breaking the device, so I would leave it in place since it's not required for the teardown. I put a piece of Captain tape on part of the adhesive so it's easier for me to remove the battery next time. To remove the speakers, we can unplug each white speaker connector, and the left speaker also has a Wi-Fi antenna cable. Then remove the 2 screws for each speaker and pull it out. Now we can start removing the controls. Use your spudger to pop off the trigger cap. Take out the 4 screws for the right trigger housing, and then we can pull that off and also the shoulder button underneath. Pull the joystick cap off and then disconnect the ribbon cable and remove the 2 screws. Once you remove the joystick module, there are 2 screws underneath that secure the housing, so remove those too. Then all we need to do is remove the 2 ribbon cables on the top and right, and the daughter board will lift right out. On the daughter board, we can see the 4 membrane pads for the action buttons, 2 small dumb switches for the start and back buttons, and 4 LEDs for the joystick lights. We can now remove the action buttons, which come out as one piece with the membrane, as well as the start button, back button, and the LED diffuser. The process is mostly the same for the D-pad side. Remove the trigger cap, then the trigger housing, then the joystick and joystick housing. Once you remove the 2 ribbon cables, we can take out the daughter board. If we flip it over, we can see that the D-pad uses dome switches and also the same smaller dome switches for the select and home buttons. Remove the D-pad, which also uses a captive membrane, the other buttons, and the LED diffuser. Finally, we can turn our attention to the center of the device and take out the motherboard. There are actually no more screws we need to remove, just disconnect the top button ribbon cable, the 2 cables on the side for the screen and action board, and the Wi-Fi antenna connector towards the bottom. Then we can lift the board from the top and pull it out. We can get a good look at the motherboard, which has markings for the RP Mini and 6GB of memory and 128GB of storage. I'm not sure what the QR looking code is on the front. My phone didn't detect it as a link, but I thought that was interesting. Now, I don't recommend you do this, but I was curious to see what it looks like under the heat shield, since I had to remove the heat shield on my Neo Pocket Evo when I was redoing the thermals on that device. I took a thin knife and used that to start from a corner and work my way around, slowly popping off the clips. You have to be very careful not to break off any of the tiny resistors all around the PCB, but eventually the shield will pop right off. We can see that there are more chips underneath with some kind of thermal paste that connects them to the heat shield. I'm not gonna lie, it looks a little insufficient, especially for the larger chip at the top, so I plan on making a video where I test the thermals and see if changing the paste improves things. Taking a closer look at the shell, we can see the dome switches for the shoulder buttons, as well as the power and volume buttons. We can also see that all of the screw holes are directly drilled into the plastic frame. In fact, I've already stripped out a few screw holes myself, which is pretty frustrating, and I wish Retroid would have used threaded inserts like on AYN or Neo devices, because plastic holes will wear out over time and lose effectiveness. If you've made it this far, please give this video a like and consider subscribing. I'm just starting my channel and it'll really help me grow. With that out of the way, let's start putting this device back together. If you remove the battery, I like to tuck the Wi-Fi antenna cable behind the battery flap so it's out of the way. Then hold the 2 side ribbon cables out of the way and insert the motherboard down into the notches. Start to push it down into place, and as you're about to fully seat it, use your spudger to make sure the top ribbon cable isn't getting pinched. Make sure the board is also under the notch on the bottom right, otherwise your board will look crooked like this. If this happens, remove the board and put a little extra force to make sure it stays under the right notch as you're setting it back down. Then reconnect all the ribbon cables and Wi-Fi antenna cable. Put the D-pad, select, and home buttons, and LED diffuser back into place. Then put the daughter board back in. Reconnect the ribbon cables and then place the joystick housing and secure it with the 2 screws. Make sure you don't over tighten screws when putting this device back together. You don't want to strip out those plastic screw holes. We can then replace the joystick, secure the 2 screws and ribbon cable, and replace the front cap. Make sure you put the shoulder button in before placing the trigger housing, then secure it with the 4 screws and replace the trigger cap. The process is very similar for the other side. Put the buttons and diffuser back into place, then place the daughter board. When placing the daughter board, I like to slot the ribbon cable into place as I'm putting the board back in, which makes it a little easier than trying to reinsert the cable after the board is already seated. Then all I need to do is flip the lock down and reconnect the other ribbon cable. Replace the joystick housing and then replace the joystick. Put the shoulder button back in, secure the trigger housing with the 4 screws, and replace the trigger cap. Put each speaker back in and secure them with the 2 screws. Each speaker has a cable to reconnect to the motherboard, and the left speaker also has that Wi-Fi antenna cable. If you removed the battery earlier, now is the time to put it back in, and we can reconnect this ribbon cable to the motherboard. Put the heatsink back into place and secure it with 4 screws. Then we can replace the vibration motor, secure it with 3 screws, and reconnect the cable. And then replace the cooling fan and its 2 screws and cable. Replace the black tape that goes over the cooling fan to prevent dust from getting into other areas of the motherboard. I like to align the top left corner and then run my finger along the rest to reattach. Now we can take our back shell and, going around all sides, snap it back together. Finally, secure it with the last 4 screws. Reinsert your microSD card and power the device on. Since this is an Android device, I like to go into the Gamepad Tester app and make sure all the controls work as expected. If you guys liked the video, please give it a like and leave a comment letting me know your thoughts on the Retroid Pocket Mini version 2. I think this is a nice little device. I had the V1 and it was okay, but now with the full-size screen it's great for more squarish platforms like Game Boy Color. I will be doing more videos on this device in the future, including a video on some non-destructive mods that will significantly reduce the clockiness of the buttons, as well as videos on the Neo Pocket Ace whenever I get that. So subscribe and turn on notifications. Thanks and have a good one.